so that kids can finally have an answer for the age-old question. Why do I need to know this? Why am I sitting here? Why am I learning this? What's the point? Is there an end goal? All of a sudden, I'm now afraid that what's he going to do? Is he going to run out and get hit by a truck? Is he going to run away? What's going to happen to me? Am I going to lose my job because I let this kid run away? Like, what are the parents, like, what are we going to do? And all of a sudden, we get into fight or flight mode, like anxiety, stress. And so all of a sudden, instead of having a clear approach to dealing with this student, we've already dropped down into a stress response, which is not clear, which is murky. We're not at our best. Matter of fact, when you're in sympathetic, you can't see great solutions. We have been shaming and blaming our kids, ourselves, our teachers, our communities, people that go to jail and go to prison. We've been blaming and shaming them and saying they're bad people when it's like, I don't think they're bad people. I think they're in a bad state. Welcome back to the 5-Star Life Show. I'm your host, Coach Seth, and I am so excited about today's show. We have special guests. We're going to have some special content. It's like back to school season, so for every parent, for every teacher, for every coach, we're going to dive into something really powerful. We've been talking with our staff in doing trainings on behavior management. Like, how do you help kids, teens, preteens navigate conflict, deal with emotional outbursts, and just deal with like bad behavior? We're going to dive into that. And it's something I don't think you've ever heard before, unless you've heard pieces of it here, because nobody's talking about it. But I believe in the next 5 years, it's going to be like the model, the method, the way that every educator, every coach, every teacher, every parent is using to help their kids grow and flourish. By the way, if you just tuned in, thank you for tuning in. You can actually listen to this show anywhere podcasts are streamed. You can also, if you're a visual learner, you can watch this on our YouTube page at the 5-Star Life Show. And you can also watch it at yourhometv.com, 2 platforms, all the episodes, all the archives. Check it out if you're a visual learner. It's awesome. And if you are also new to this program, like, thanks for tuning in. Go check us out online. We're a nonprofit organization on a mission to transform students' lives by challenging the way they think, the way they act, and the way they lead, by equipping them with the academic, the athletic, the social, and the employability skills they need to thrive. That's a mouthful. We're going to unpack that in this show. But before we go any further, I want to introduce our guest today. Coach Mia is out today, but we've got Keenan Story, our Director of Summit, in the house. Keenan, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, I'm excited to be on. Thanks.
So Keenan has a massive role here at 5-Star Life. So we work with tens of thousands of kids, and Keenan oversees everything at Summit, which is our nearly 400-acre innovative learning campus, and it's amazing. And we have so many different programs that operate there. The most consistent one is innovative learning, where kids are bussed out for school, literally all year long, every semester in the summer. So Keenan, thanks for joining us. And why don't you tell the audience a little bit about summer, because we're kind of winding down summer programs.
Yeah, it's been a fun summer. It's been a summer of a lot of new things and first experiences with programs, and we're seeing incredible impact from that. We've served a number of school districts in the area, having students out on a repetitive basis, day by day, getting to take them through some of our innovative learning courses in that summertime. I know going into it, we were talking so much about how this can be an opportunity to really keep students engaged in a couple months that for so many can put them behind. It can be learning loss. It can be that time where they're not connected to some of that routine and the things that they can expect on a day-to-day basis. So it was a lot of fun to see us able to work with students this summer to bring that back in a fun way, a way where it's not, as a kid, you want to be outside in the summer. You want that summer break. You want the fun element of that. So to do quality education and learning, but do that in engaging, fun, hands-on ways. I mean, that's what, innovative learning and what Summit's all about. So to get to do that this summer was a blast.
I love it. So as we gear up for this next school year, I mean, literally, how close are we to launching programs again?
August 17th.
Yeah,
we're close.
So we're knocking the door. So like literally, we have summer programs going on right now.
Yeah, we're finishing South Bend this week. We get a little break. I schedule stuff in our break weeks. Sorry to our staff on that one, but no, it's a blast. We're going to jump right in with then 6 more weeks and a whole cohort of innovative learning, just under 1,000 kids a week there. So yeah.
An incredible opportunity for kids. And everybody, there's so many headlines about education, and there's so many headlines about kids that are making poor decisions, whether they're in gangs and shooting each other or they're just getting into trouble. And all of this programming when it comes to education is a game changer because, so many kids are they're not learning the way traditional education is set up to teach kids. They're bored out of their minds sitting in those classrooms. So this innovative learning program gets them outside, active, learning by doing. And, talk about this. We've gone from, over the last 2.5 years, from having just under 400 kids in the program to we'll have how many kids this school year in the innovative learning program?
Well, a lot more than that. We're gonna be more than quadrupling from those past 2 years the amount of students we're serving in cohorts, to the point now where we really have innovative learning going on all school year long.
Yeah. So we'll have thousands of kids next school year as a part of that program. So it's growing and scaling fast, but that creates some pressure to make sure we scale up and keep up with the demand from schools.
Yeah, absolutely.
What are the needs? There's people listening who I talk to people all the time that are like, you know what, I've done what I've been doing for a long time, but I think it's time for a change. Whether they're in education, whether they're in business, and they're like, or whether they're retiring, or there's probably parents, grandparents listening, and you have kids and grandkids that are trying to figure out life, but they love working with kids. Talk about some of the opportunities, some of the needs that you have.
Yeah, and it's cool because innovative learning is this thing that we're seeing it work. We're seeing the impact happen and the results come, and that's exciting to be a part of. So for people, if you're in the Elkhart area, if you're in the South Bend area, we're serving your students. Mm-hmm. We are, like this year, we are directly serving, and not just select groups, across the board, every 5th grader, every 6th grader, and so on. Like, we're serving at the masses, your community members. So, ways to get involved, we're really looking for volunteers right now. Volunteers help us move our mission forward and help make possible that impact. So that's definitely a thing that I think we need as we're scaling up. It allows us to serve more kids and do it at a high level. People who love coaching, right? They love looking at a student and seeing you're here, but I can see where you could be, and I want to help you get there. And that's what we want. We want people who can help walk students through that journey and process.
What kind of ways can people get involved?
In a simple level, just being a program coach at Summit. So that's coming out. It's not a huge commitment. It could even be as little as 1 day a week for a cohort, and try a cohort and go from there and see if that's something you want to stick with. And they can get involved by going on our website. There's a Get Involved tab, 5starlife.org, get involved, and they can just fill out a volunteer application, get in touch with me, and learn more. But being a program coach where they're working with students, or if they have an area of expertise, like they have this skill thing that they love to do, if that's something in the trades or working with animals or growing things in the garden or nature and being outdoors, like whatever that might be, some people will come and coach, and some people will come and bring their skill set to make a difference with these students in their community.
I love it. So talk a little bit as we go into this fall. Explain to people who have not been able to go out there and see it, visually, witness it, experience it. I get to go out there and see the learning happening and the engagement. Walk them through a couple different programs, what that looks like.
Oh boy, there's gonna be a lot. This year we're gonna be taking students through some equine programming, working with animals. We talk about created environments and how in education you can move the needle and help enhance learning by putting students in environments to thrive. And they can learn when they feel like they're in an environment where they're safe and they can learn. The barn does that. Yeah. Being around animals does that. They start to learn from these animals that can read them, that you can tell kind of what they're feeling as well, and just really develop that ability to be aware of yourself, be aware of others, and kind of walk forward in that way. So we're going to be going through that equine experience, that course. I mean, it's everything to do with working with large animals to doctoring skills, nutrition, anatomy, the whole deal. And that'll kind of feed then into our garden and greenhouse course. Students are learning where food comes from. They're learning basic Indiana academic standards, not just from that manual, that textbook, but getting in the dirt and doing it, growing things, mixing soil, learning about that element from experience. So we're excited to be using the garden and greenhouse in that way. We're going to do more nature education programs, blacksmithing where they're hammering away at steel and they're shaping things and seeing them able to create something beautiful. More trade skills as well will continue to come from that, and more that just gets them into nature education opportunities, learning about different, from that hands-on experience, what are all these different potential career paths that have to do with this. So yeah, those are just a few courses that we're definitely excited to be kicking off this fall.
Yeah, and kids, again, they're learning these concepts that's sticking, and it's interesting, it's intriguing, and that's a big part. I mean, our word education comes from a Latin root word that means to draw from within. And that's the thing I love about what we do with this innovative learning program is every course is designed. You talked about kind of environment matters. You know, the environment does set the tone, the learning environment. And a cinder block classroom with hard, cold desks, you know, like if anybody was dreaming up the best way to like learn something, like there's nobody today in today's culture would say that's exactly how we draw this up, right?
Yeah, I just gave a tour to a bunch of teachers. We were driving around Summit, and they walked through our beautiful garden, and that's what they were saying. They're like, "Wow, just imagine if I could take like the help that would give me, the way that would enhance my learning of what I'm already teaching students. Just take the environment and shift it, both the space they're in, but also the coaches they're with, the people who they're building relationships with. So teachers see it too, and that's I think why this program's had an immense success."
And why it's growing is because, again, teachers, what a hard job, because they're put in environments that work with this environment, right? And make it work. And then we blame teachers. It's like, man, 5 Star Life is offering a solution, partnering with schools and saying, hey, we have 400 acres and we have all these classrooms. Why don't you come and let this be your classroom? And we'll work together on it. And I think that's the beautiful harmony in this is taking what those educators were trained for, prepared for, and what they do, and then them coming out on a consistent basis and expanding their classroom instead of like, you know, the old paradigm was like going on a field trip once a year. And some of those might have been just fun. Some of them had some educational components. But what this is, it's built into their entire school year. And to my knowledge, it's not being done anywhere else. And so, you know, to our listening audience, everybody that listens to 95.3 MNC and is a part of our radiothon and has supported us, you've helped build this opportunity. You've helped make this happen. Like, you should feel amazing about what you've done, because we promised during that radiothon, like every dollar we get, we're going to leverage it to impact kids and to help education and help kids in detention centers and probation and help athletes like live a 5-star life. And if you have not been able to come see it in action, this is your open invitation. I really encourage you to come and see what you're supporting, see what you're part of. And of course, if you've not supported it, if you're just listening, you're hearing about this and you're like, man, I got to learn more, then I encourage you to go to our website, 5starlife.org, learn more there, but then come on out, come on a tour, come check out the different programs we have and see if you really have something you can get involved with volunteering, or if you want to start to fund or support different initiatives. And the great thing about this, I always tell people, is like, we're not talking about digging wells in Africa. We're talking about which you can't see unless you go. This is right here in your backyard. All right, we got to take one quick break here. We'll be right back after this. The 5-Star Life Parent app. Each lesson includes a short video and simple discussion prompts designed to help families reconnect and start talking again. Because when parents lead the conversation, kids grow stronger. Download the 5-Star Life Parent app today and start your first family conversation this week, transforming kids' lives by challenging the way they think, act, and lead. Welcome back to the 5-Star Life Show. I'm your host, Coach Seth, and I'm joined in studio with Keenan Story, Director of Summit, and we're having a great conversation, catching people up. If you've never heard of 5-Star Life, you've never heard of the things that we're doing to transform students' lives by challenging the way they think, the way they act, the way they lead, while equipping them with the athletic, the academic, and the employability skills that they need to thrive. If you've never heard of this, you need to go check us out online at 5starlife.org. But we're having this great conversation. Keenan's leading the charge. He's hiring, leading volunteers, training staff, and doing a phenomenal job at really educating several thousand kids that will go through this program. And it's growing and scaling. And we're always looking, like literally, the whole vision here, if you are somewhat, like we live in this area, this region of the Midwest, this is such a huge manufacturing area and such an entrepreneurial, business-minded, visionary community that there's so many things that start here that are amazing. And so kudos to all of the leaders who have supported us over the last 20 years to get us to this point. Kudos to all of the folks who are investing in helping us build. Like right now, we had a group out of Indy donate a sawmill and a kiln, and we're raising money to build a facility where we can add woodworking, blacksmithing, and kind of all these, kind of an artisan village under one shop. And so thank you to all the people that are involved in those things. We have a lot of things we want to do to help these kids grow and offer them every single kind of job that's out there, every industry out there. What we've done is reverse engineered those jobs and said, what can we teach them at 5th grade that aligns to educational standards, but gets them working with their hands and their minds so that kids can finally have an answer for the age-old question, why do I need to know this? Why am I sitting here? Why am I learning this? What's the point? Is there an end goal? And this is so simple, but 5-Star Life, we've always asked like simple, basic questions. Every program we start has been because someone came to us with a question, a problem, and we said, well, think about it. And if it's in our wheelhouse, we'll do it. So it's a great program. Keenan, we've also done a ton of, we've talked about this innovative learning and all the students we've had, but you've done a lot of, and we've done a lot of professional development leadership days at Summit, our nearly 400-acre innovative learning campus. Walk me through and walk our audience through what the purpose of those are and the impact of those, and what's some of the feedback we're getting.
Yeah, I mean, it really goes back to innovative learning. I mean, this is a program that is all-encompassing, changing that school culture and environment. It's impacting students at a high level, but part of that is it's how do we challenge students, but how do we support, encourage, and build up great teachers, great educators as well, and support in that way. So that's led to with some of our partners and some other schools and organizations doing some of these professional development days where they actually get to come and experience Summit. They're challenged. They're challenged to think critically, to think really closely about, ultimately how are they showing up, and what are some of the core root things that they're taking with them each school year. I know with even some districts we've worked with recently, it's completely challenged how they're going into this next year. I know that even this past week, there was one gentleman saying, I've taught for probably 20 plus years. In the past 5, I've just wanted to get through every day and just get by it and get out. Mode. Yeah, absolutely. And just get me through this and just feeling burnt out, defeated. And in that professional development session, when we start getting with teachers, with adults, with educators to some root things and have them think critically about these things, how they're showing up, and think critically about some elements that might have turned into a cruise control thing for years, like this teacher. Well, they leave like this gentleman saying, like, I don't want this year to be like that. That's not helping kids, right? Yeah. I want to be different. So we had a different teacher even this past week say it's the best professional development he's ever been a part of, and he's turned into a supporter. He wants to help any way that he can. So we're excited to be partnering with some of our schools and people who we're doing these lessons, these professional development sessions for. It's challenging culture. It's challenging how they show up, how they believe in their students, and it's going to trickle down as we see that really impact kids this year.
I love that. And for the record, like everything we do is to transform kids' lives. And what we've gotten into over the last several years in increasing measure is, what is upstream from student success, right? It's the adults, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, I think sometimes we point the finger at kids and their behavior, or then we point the finger at teachers and parents. And again, just to all those out there that are critical, I would just say just stop the finger pointing and jump into the solution. And that's what 5-Star Life has done. Like we've never pointed at or been critical of schools. We've jumped in and said, hey, what do you think about this? I think we can help with this. Because kind of our signature, Keenan, for 20 years has been the power of 5-Star is the people they bring in, the energy, the emotional intelligence, the way they deal with discipline and conflict. Those have become the telltale signs of 5-Star Life, that we train people well and prepare people well for all the things that come with working with kids. And so it's now fun to have a 400-acre facility that we can actually design programming for educators to come down and help them. Like everybody wants to win. Kids want to win. Teachers want to win. Parents want to win. And so something you're going to see and hear a lot more from this program, from the organization, is a focus, and this is kind of a new growth track for 5-Star, is offering more professional development for parents, for teachers, for coaches, and those who are serving kids. And you mentioned before about the barn and our horses, how they're like reading the kids. Mm-hmm. And like the reality is those animals, they have more intuition and more sense and more awareness of where kids are at in their nervous system and their stress. Like they have a much better read than kids do or adults do most of the time.
We could learn a lot from them. Yeah,
absolutely. And so we do it. I love that. But I want to hold this sign up for those who are visual learners. This is just a little hook to get you to come and check us out on YouTube or at yourhometv.com. This is something that we've incorporated into our curriculum. It's called the Polyvagal Theory. And this is so simple. And a lot of people have not heard of it. You'll see a little bit online about it, but this is something I believe is going to grow and become huge because it's so simple and it helps educators, parents, teachers, coaches understand how you start to we all look at kids and behavioral issues, but we've got to go upstream and look at, okay, so how much impact does the environment have to do with kid behavior? How much does the nervous system, the emotional regulation, the emotional intelligence of the teacher, the coach, the parent have to do with the behavior of the kid? And I think we all intuitively know a lot. It's huge. They're just kids. So what we're saying is, and this is what we're training, and we're adding more and more PD sessions about this, our goal is that we can train every teacher in this region and someday every teacher in America and every parent to win with their own kids, to win with their students, to win with their players, right? And to win with the kids that are in probation. And we believe it is actually the highest level of myself only lives at what's called the ventral vagus. So if you picture if you're just listening by radio or podcast, I want you to picture an outline of a human anatomy, and just picture this vagus nerve going from the brainstem all the way down to the visceral organs. So, and 20% of what the vagus nerve does is it's regulating our internal organs. So it's regulating our respiratory system, our breathing, our heart rate, our digestive system, right? That's 20% of its job. The other 80% is it is sending signals and messages, information, emotions that are flowing through our body. And now it's crazy. With science, with medical innovation, we can actually show the state of being that we're living in. And basically this theory says that we live in and out of 3 different states. At the top of that brainstem, it's called ventral vagal. And that is where peace lives. That is where clarity lives. That's where vision is. That's where we can build relationships. We feel safe. We feel connected. We feel alive. We're invigorated. Anything's possible. And then if you drop from that ventral vagal, the top of that nervous system, down to the bottom, you're down in the stomach area. And in the stomach area, that part of the vagus nerve is called the dorsal vagal. And that's the exact opposite. Instead of clear, you've dropped down, you're unclear. It's confusing. It's where you go to shut down. It's where depression lives. It's where you go to isolate, to hide. It's where there's no energy. There's no initiative. You don't care. You have literally shut down. You're in the fetal position. And then in the middle, not in the vagus nerve, but in the spinal cord, right behind your shoulder blades, in the middle is called the sympathetic nervous system. And this spot in the nervous system is the place where fight or flight lives. It's where anxiety lives, stress. It's where frustration, agitation, you feel fidgety, you want to move. It's an active state, it's an activation mode. And so either you're going to, like your pupils dilate, like you're ready to like pounce, fight back, or you're ready to flee. And usually when we flee, we drop down to dorsal, we shut down. And so again, people are like, okay, so what does this have to do with behavior management? Everything. We have to start going upstream. If I can, Keenan, for me to be able to work with a kid, we had a kid who tried to run away during camp this summer. Right? He's like, I'm out of here. I don't want to learn math. This is horrible. This is frustrating. I'm frustrated. I don't want to do this. I'm out. Took off, just left, started walking. So now listen, if I am an adult who is supposed to be equipped to handle the situation, and if I've never handled a situation like this, and if I don't understand this, I can't recognize what state I'm in. If I'm clear, if I'm up on ventral, what will happen is that kid, all of a sudden, I'm now afraid that what's he going to do? Is he going to run out and get hit by a truck? Is he going to run away? What's going to happen to me? Am I going to lose my job because I let this kid run away? Like, are the parents, like, what are we going to do? And all of a sudden, we get into fight or flight mode, like anxiety, stress. And so all of a sudden, instead of having a clear approach to dealing with this student, we've already dropped down into a stress response, which is not clear, which is murky. We're not at our best. Matter of fact, when you're in sympathetic, you can't see great solutions. You're so afraid that it's hard to really see the best solutions. And ultimately what happens is a lot of people, they're just shut down. I can't deal with this right now. They check out. So when people say, what does this have to do with behavior management? Everything. Because what we got to do is we got to first, it's like getting an airplane, right? What do? They say first put your oxygen mask on. And I'm telling you, that's the key to great behavioral management. If you want to learn to work with kids, and whether you're coaching, whether you're a parent, whether you're a teacher, like if you want to get great at working with kids, you got to put your oxygen mask, hard for me to say, your oxygen mask. I get so excited about this. I get sped up, and we're out of time. We got to take a break. At 5 Star Life, we talk a lot about the right tools. See, the hammer is the courage to be the best person you can be. The chisel is the respect you give and the respect you earn. The level, that's the integrity that keeps you balanced in a world that's always shifting. And the saw represents responsibility. It is what separates you from harmful actions and experience. It's the sacrifice it takes to work hard and be your best. Tools, when they're all used together, things are built. There's progress, but where there are no tools, there can be no progress. We give these important tools to kids every single day, and we couldn't do it without our partners like Global Link Distribution. Global Link supports this mission so that these values, courage, respect, integrity, responsibility, and sacrifice become the tools these amazing young people use to become great. Global Link Distribution is a leader and supplier to the RV, manufactured housing, cabinet shop, cargo, and horse trailer industries, but they're also a proud sponsor of this program to help 5 Star Life students thrive. It is our turn to see to it that our children have the tools that build greatness. Volunteer or donate today at 5starlife.org. Welcome back to the 5-Star Life Show. I'm your host, Coach Seth. I'm joined in the studio with Keenan Story, Director of Summit. Keenan, welcome back.
Yeah, thanks.
And, this last segment we were talking about, I was just about to blow a gasket here. I get so excited, and I get excited about this topic because I just love kids. I care so much about kids. And I have watched kids have so many breakthroughs, and those breakthroughs usually happen at the moment of conflict, at the moment of agitation, at the moment of breakdown. Like when they're in this vulnerable state, this is an opportunity for an adult who's clear to come in and start to model and show them a way that empowers them to learn how they can win in life, right? And so many people are like, well, I just want it all to be roses. And it's like, well, life isn't roses. And kids are closest to their breakthrough. They're closest to going to the next level. That's that old sign, like, what is that, the adage? It's always darkest before dawn. Mm-hmm. So there's so much truth to that when we think about our own personal breakthroughs or kids' breakthroughs. They usually happen when it's the scariest, when you've lost all hope. And so one of the things we teach is those scary moments in kids' lives, what they do is they trigger this fear response in adults. And so the moment of breakthrough becomes a moment of non-breakthrough, non-activity. Nothing happens. The breakthrough doesn't happen because the adult mirrors the nervous system of the kid. If they're in fight or flight, the teacher drops down to a fearful state. If the kid's shut down, depressed, often we as adults, we view a kid that's shut down, we think they're being defiant or disrespectful or just unwilling to cooperate. And the reality is, if you don't have a knowledge of these states of being, and you can't read where you yourself are at, you can't recognize where you're at in the ladder or if you're even equipped to deal with the situation. Forget all your training, forget everything you've learned, even if you've been in this for a long time. When you're in one of these other states, all that stuff goes away. You can't access that. We see this all the time with family members and with athletes. They have all the training in the world to handle situations, but they choke, they fail, they lose their stuff, right? It's not because they don't know. And what we've done doing, Keenan, is we have been shaming and blaming our kids, ourselves, our teachers, our communities, people that go to jail and go to prison. We've been blaming and shaming them and saying they're bad people when it's like, I don't think they're bad people. I think they're in a bad state. Mm-hmm. If we could teach people how to understand what state they're in, instead of shaming and blaming them and trying to guilt them into better performance, better behavior, all of a sudden we start to be gracious and patient because we're clear. We can see, oh, that student, they're walking away. They're out of here. Okay, I can stay clear. I can recognize, this is scary. Because it is. Kid starts taking, that's scary. But if you can take a breath, there's these techniques to move back. I'm going to take a breath. I'm going to move back to ventral. Now I can see, okay, this is going to be an opportunity because something has triggered them. I'm going to walk with them to find out what's going on. They're going to start to see what's going on. Their solution right now is flee. They're in what? They're in fight or flight, or they've dropped down to dorsal. They're either checked out or they're fleeing. All of a sudden, well, that gives me more information, a little more clarity. What's my next move? You know what? I'm going to make sure I'm in ventral because the number one way to get a kid to go from dorsal vagal or from the sympathetic fight or flight, from agitation and stress and anxiety, the number one way to move up the ladder is co-regulation. See, our nervous systems are so tuned to the vibes in the nervous systems of other people. And so there's this phrase and verbiage that I'd never heard of it until Dr. Stephen Porges, who invented this theory, made it up. He calls it neuroception. So perception is being able to see a stick on the ground, and you all of a sudden, you see the stick on the ground, you eye it up and you realize, okay, that's a stick on the ground. But neuroception sees a snake, freaks out, and all of a sudden you're in fight or flight, and you're scared, you're jumpy, you're agitated because you think it's a snake. Perception takes longer to catch up, and it says, no, hold on, I'm going to look at that again. That's actually a stick. I'm good. So neuroception's happening in your nervous system way faster than we can perceive, faster than perception. So this is stuff, again, people are starting to understand, okay, this is why when it comes to behavior management, understanding where I'm at on the ladder, because where I'm at will determine what I'm seeing, what I'm experiencing. When I'm clear, I can see the whole picture. When I'm cloudy and afraid, I'm seeing the snake, not the stick. I can't see solutions. I see danger. I'm scanning for danger. See, being unsympathetic, your nervous system kicks into the security system to say, you're in danger, be careful. And so you're scanning for everything dangerous. You're not scanning for hope, for positive solutions. You're like, I need to fight or I need to leave. This is how so much parenting takes place, Keenan. This is how so many of our worst teaching and parenting moments happen, where we have regrets and where we build walls and we tear down bridges between us and kids because we ourselves are not in the right state of being. Talk a little bit about, from your perspective, how is this being received? How is our staff receiving this, and how is our staff implementing this?
It's been transformational for our team. And we're realizing, like everything you just said, it goes to a fine line. Like looking at that situation, it's a fine line of, do I have belief for that student and that it's not the problem being who they are, right? But there's potential there. And it's simply a state. But it's that fine line of, okay, in this situation, I'm either fighting a losing battle against a behavior issue. I'm fighting a losing battle that's only exhausting me and bringing more blame and shame and not helping the situation, or a student running, and we pause, we do this. Where am I at? Where are they at? And in a moment, it turns into now something we're telling a story about. It's a transformational moment. So I think that's what it's done for our staff, is recognize this is powerful. These are powerful tools that we can pull out, we can use, and it's that choice in the moment, right? Are we going to choose to think about where are we, where is this student, and how can we make sure we respond in how we want to?
It's really well said, and I think we all want these technical, do this, turn right, turn left, do this. When a kid does this, here's your go-to statement. And that's just not how life works. That's not how kids work. That's not how humanity works. We want that, but the reality is, throw all that out the window if you're not in the right state of being anyways. You can't recall that information. It's gone because you're in the wrong state. So again, this is a push from 5-Star Life to the world. Let's start training parents and equipping them and teachers with this knowledge, because if we can be in the right state of being, most of us actually intuitively, if we're in the right state, we can start to see clearly what the next move is. It's intuitive, right? So like, it's so interesting how, talk about the young man who tried to leave. And so the coach just walked alongside him, right? Just walked with him. And the coach at the time, I think he was trying to talk to him and didn't realize, like, okay, this kid's shut down. He's not listening to a word I'm saying. He can't even hear me. He's just trying to get away. But we walked with him, and then he got a little more agitated and started sprinting. And he started sprinting. I'm sure the coach was like, uh-oh, what's going on? We're getting pretty... And I remember I was on the phone, like, oh, he's getting close to the road. Like these are real situations that are really important, and they are legitimately scary. And we have a obligation, a responsibility to keep kids safe, right? So there's all that in the mix of these things. But what we need our staff to know is actually running was the best thing he could have done, sprinting. Because movement, sprinting, push-ups, and I've told so many people this. Like when I work with kids and they're active and they're agitated and they're not engaged and they're frustrated or whatever, I will be like, all right, everybody down with me. We're doing 10 push-ups. Everybody right now, let's go. Count them out, let's go. Now I'm paying attention to my body language and my voice tone. I'm not like, you guys are being horrible. You guys aren't listening. Everybody, you get down, you give me 10 push-ups. That's what we're gonna do. If you're not gonna listen. And this is, well, where on the ladder am I right there, Keenan?
Not at the top. You are fight mode.
I'm in fight mode.
For sure.
I am in, and what is I'm afraid that I've lost control. I'm afraid that they don't respect me. I'm afraid that I'm not doing a good job. I've lost the patients are running the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
That makes me fearful. But when I'm clear, I can say, they're disengaged. They're active. They're struggling to focus. What can I do to move them to an engaged mode? Movement. They're middle school boys. They need to move. They can't sit in the seat that long. Let's take 1 minute. We're going to rip off 10 push-ups. We're going to high five. I'm going to beat them in this push-up challenge. I'm going to rip on them for not going all the way down. I'm going to tell them who's cheating. I'm going to have some fun with them, get them active. We're going to stretch. We're going to blow off some steam. And they're going to laugh and have fun. And then we're going to get back to business. Well, what that does is you're giving them an outlet to release and actually rise back up to clarity. And it's so powerful. So this young man's running away. He sprints. And all of a sudden, I remember hearing this, the coach, when I was debriefing, he said, he just stopped running. And I'm like, of course he did. I said, what did he do next? He said he just sat down. He was totally at peace. I said, isn't that a coincidence?
Mm-hmm.
No, it's not a coincidence. It's science. And if we understand these things, the running won't scare us. Matter of fact, I'll beat you to that tree. I'm going to beat you over the hill. Let's go. All of a sudden, it changes the game and how you work with kids, and they start to know that you're for them, not trying to control them, not trying to shame them, because the biggest fear kids have is that they fear that they don't measure up, they don't have value, and they fear that there's something deeply wrong with them. That's the scariest thing in the world, is a person to believe, like, man, I'm messed up. And when they see that same fear in the eyes of the adult, the teacher, the parent, the coach, that we all of a sudden, like, we're afraid of them too. Like, this kid's messed up. We look at them that way out of our own fear. That pushes them further down the ladder, and they miss the breakthrough moment. All right. We're going to take another break. I hope this is helpful. If it is helpful, please let us know. If you're watching this on YouTube, comment, subscribe. If you're listening by radio, please reach out to us. And if this is something you think is something your local school or parent group needs, reach out to us. We're all about this. And want to encourage you to go to our website, check this out. We'll be right back after this with one more segment. We're going to do a little more on this topic before we wrap up. Again, go to 5starlife.org. Go to your YouTube channel at the 5-Star Life or yourhometv.com. We'll be right back after this. The 5-Star Life Parent app. Each lesson includes a short video and simple discussion prompts designed to help families reconnect and start talking again. Because when parents lead the conversation, kids grow stronger. Download the 5-Star Life Parent app today and start your first family conversation this week, transforming kids' lives by challenging the way they think, act, and lead. Welcome back to the 5-Star Life Show. I am your host, Coach Seth, and I'm joined with Keenan Story, our Director of Summit. Keenan, thanks for joining me.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
We're talking about, behavior management and how parents and teachers and coaches and everybody who works with kids can start to have these breakthrough moments. And, it's so simple, but this, if you're watching by YouTube or your home TV, you can see this diagram. We've been talking about the Polyvagal Theory and the Polyvagal Ladder. And this is something I encourage you to listen to over and over and start to wrap your mind around, because if you can make this knowledge intuitive inside of you and you can recognize where you're at in the ladder, it's a game changer. And I'm telling you, it is going to give everybody who listens to this and applies this and gets this concept, it's going to give you an insane boost of emotional intelligence, right? So when it comes to your spouse and your own kids and your coworkers, when you have the ability to recognize where you're at on the ladder, so many arguments, so much conflict is happening between two people that are in the sympathetic fight or flight mode. They're not hearing each other. They're not listening to each other. They're not understanding each other. And part of it's because they can't. Like literally, like walking away and coming back when you're clear is a great move. And so this is something, and so if you can identify where you're at, and getting teachers and our coaches to identify where they're at, and it's awesome. I got a couple emails from staff members that we did this training for, and both of them are recognizing like, man, when this happened, I recognized where I was at. And it altered my approach. We human beings, we're made of clay. You know, we have vulnerabilities, we have insecurities, and things get triggered in us, and we take things personal. It's interesting. We're just grown-up kids. We're kids in adult bodies, but we still have these emotional and mental modes like children. They say that the average age or the average emotional quotient of an adult is equivalent to that of a 13-year-old. So like literally, it's like we're stuck in this middle school immaturity, these modes where all of a sudden we feel like a middle schooler. Like our emotions are all over the place and we can't handle ourselves. And instead of blaming and shaming that, I think a better solution is to say, hey, if you can start to learn where you're at, all of a sudden you can grow up. You can grow. We can function like adults. Truly the difference between those who live this way and understand this and those who don't, it's this knowledge, right? It's things like metacognition, right? Or flexible thinking. It's the ability to step outside of yourself and look down upon yourself and view where you're at. That's a superpower that most people don't have. And it's for everybody. For everybody. So it's slowing down. And again, this is what we're kind of beating the drum saying, what would it look like if every educator, every coach of every sport, anybody who deals with youth, what if everybody could go through this training and start to understand where they're at and then get really good at that and then be able to see kids for their state, not for their behavior. Absolute game changer.
Excites me to think about, see what that can do for kids. It's not that those issues that arise, because we're helping students grow. Those issues will still arrive in that top of the ladder, but you're not one person versus the other pushing against each other. You get to come alongside students in that way when you can think this way and walk with them. The issue's still there, but there's that clarity you're talking about. And I think that's been a game changer, I know, as we've trained our staff to just see how that's completely transformed how they perceive situations and interact with students.
Yeah, because if you're in sympathetic, if you're that middle ground, you're in fight or flight. Again, nervous system to nervous system. Have you ever been around somebody that's totally calm, but not calm on the inside? Mm-hmm. And they're like, no, I'm fine. But you know they're not fine because you can feel the heat coming off them. They're not fighting. But you can feel, your nervous system is attuned to where they're at in their state. You can feel it. And what this does is says, okay, maybe I've learned self-control at a high level, but I'm still here in the sympathetic, right? Mm-hmm. I'm mature enough to control myself, but it doesn't mean I have access mentally to the ventral vagal thoughts, because I can be calm as a cucumber on the outside, but as soon as I have to open my mouth and deal with any kind of conflict, I'm still coming at it from the defensive part of my system. I'm still defending. I'm not in ventral vagal. I'm not the top where I actually have win-win solutions. I'm trying to see I can't see their perspective. I can only see my perspective here. The only thing I can see is me. This, again, I'm just restating this for everybody that's listening. When you can learn how this ladder and this polyvagal theory works, and you can do this metacognition piece where you can step outside yourself and recognize where you're at in the ladder, then there's some things you can do. We talked about co-regulation. For kids, this is like God's gift to kids. One of the best ways that they learn to climb the ladder is through a healthy, safe adult that's clear and ventral. So like literally, that means I have the power, Keenan. It's given us a lot of power. That means that my nervous system can calm the nervous system of a kid just by me being there. It can heavily influence them. And all of a sudden, they don't know why, but they just start to calm down. Right?
Well, and you're talking about people want the what do I do now? What do I do now? I've heard that. How do you interact with that student? How do you get through to them? I can't get anywhere. It's not about what you're doing or not doing. It's about what state are you in?
What state you're in. And sometimes just like they're having their fit, and I've done this with I have 3 sons, and so like sometimes they have a meltdown, and the key is not having a meltdown with them. Mm-hmm. And the key is not being so afraid that, oh my gosh, I'm a bad parent, why are they having this meltdown? Well, because they're 7, or because they're whatever, or because they're a teen and they've got all kinds of hormones coursing through their brain right now, and they're flipping out because it's called science. And is that going to trigger me to shift down the ladder and then start to control the behavior and look at them sideways like, what's wrong with you? What is that? Shame, blame, what's wrong with you? And really, that's a reflection of how I feel on the inside, because I think there's something wrong with me. I thought I trained you better, but obviously I didn't. What did I miss? What am I doing wrong? And so it's just like, just take a breath. Climb up. Ooh, they're having a bad day. They're melting down. They're absolute going cray-cray right now. That's where they're at. I wonder why. And you just let them go. And sometimes you let them go. And but Coach said, you're just going to let them go off on you? Maybe for a moment. They won't go off on you long when you're in ventral, because they'll look in your eyes and be like, what am I doing to this person? Why are they so calm? And it starts to scramble their brain, and their nervous system starts to feel the peace, the calm, and the belief. And it just starts to settle them a little bit. And some people are like, I don't believe it. You have to experiment. You have to try it, and you'll watch. You'll be amazed at how your best parenting, your best coaching, your best teaching will take place here. And a lot of it has to do just with what state you're in, and all the solutions will come. Hey, I know you're upset, and if you need to vent. But you're saying some things that you might regret later. Why don't you just pause and let's take a breath? Let's just take a breath. Can you do that with me? It becomes that. Now they know I'm not defensive. I'm not a threat. I'm not trying to control them out of my own fear or anxiety. And they're like, yeah, this doesn't feel good. And so they start to calm down. Have you ever done box breathing? Have you ever done 3-6-1 breathing? Have you ever? And you start to bring them these tools. Now, the goal is, if you teach every adult knows this and every kid knows this, now it's just like, hey, I can tell you're really upset. How do you want to handle this? It's empowering them, and you're giving them, you're lending them your belief that, okay, I can fix this. And kids can fix it. We have teacher after teacher tell us, like, from going through our curriculum, going through this training, kids in grade school, on the playground, pausing to do breath work, before a test, pausing, in the middle of conflict, saying, I'm going to step away before I say something I don't like. These are little adults. They're little adults. Why? Because they're learning how to empower themselves and make good choices that make them feel good about who they are. Nobody's trying to hurt each other. Really powerful stuff. Abby's here. She's sitting back here observing. And Abby runs Lyft. I actually brought Abby on last week. So if you watched the show or listened to it, you heard her voice. But Abby, you were telling me that some of the girls that you coach in our Lyft program, the kids that are maybe in trouble with the law and they're in the 6-week program, that they're eating this stuff up and they're feeling empowered and they're growing.
Yeah, we actually have a 12-year-old, and one of her stories, we were talking about the Polyvagal Theory and just checking in where you're at. And one of the challenges was to observe where you're at and use one of the 5 steps that we've been talking about throughout the curriculum. And her story was, I was going to eat in my room. They shared space with siblings. One of the sibling likes all the lights out, no light in there. And she said that she can't eat in the dark. So instead, she said, instead of, her words, 12-year-old, instead of picking a fight, I checked where I was at and I was in sympathetic. So I walked out and I just found a place, like I found a different place to eat. And then same girl, different scenario. She actually just put herself into the bathroom, checked herself, did her breath work in the mirror, spent about 20 minutes in there. And then she said that she felt like she was good in ventral. And then she walked out. It's that simple and that powerful. Like the earlier that these kids can learn that, it's going to just help them the rest of their lives.
I love that so much. They're absorbing it. And instead of crashing out, instead of starting a fight with their sibling in the bedroom, right? She's like, I don't want to do that. And that's the thing that I want adults to hear. They don't want to do that. They don't want to do that. We as adults, we get so offended and threatened by kids because we think they want to do that. And they really don't. They just don't know how. We're teaching them the way. Kudos to you, Abby, for teaching those girls the way. Doing a phenomenal job. And Keenan for teaching our staff and for teaching our students the way. What a powerful process this is. And again, I know there's people listening that I know I'm going to get calls and emails from you. We want to be a resource for you. And we want to bring this training in our curriculum to your school, to your nonprofit, and we can scale that for you. So if you've been listening, you're like, man, this is so good. Please do yourself and your family and your friends a favor, forward this show to them. And start to tune in. If you haven't subscribed yet, these shows will come right to your email inbox. They'll come right to your social media. Don't miss a show. But we're out of time. Keenan, thanks for joining. Abby, thanks for sharing. And there's so many ways to get involved with 5-Star volunteering, giving, serving. We'll see you next week.